Everything starts somewhere, even a social media behemoth. So who are the first 20 employees to hop aboard the Facebook train? And after likely becoming obscenely rich, what became of them? Everybody knows this guy. The king of social networks is a major celebrity, but a surprisingly private one, who keeps much of his personal life on the down low. And Mark Zuckerberg's oft-repeated message that Facebook connects the world together? Yeah, it sounds nice. But he's also the 19-year-old Harvard student who bragged over Instant Messenger that more than 4,000 people he called dumb had sent him their private pictures, addresses, and emails.
The goal is obviously to get to ubiquity. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg wants everyone to be on this service.
Still, there's no question that Zuckerberg is a seriously gifted guy. A child prodigy who created programs resembling AIM and Pandora in his spare time before either service existed, then went to Harvard, developed the Facebook, dropped out, and changed the world.
The goal that we went into it with wasn't to make an online community, but sort of like a mirror for the real community that existed in real life.
Facebook is Zuck, and Zuck is Facebook. Even the classic blue and white color scheme is rooted in his red-green color blindness, but he's had some rough times. He was forced to spend all of 2018 apologizing as headlines about election interference, fake news, and user privacy concerns rolled in. His appearance before the Senate in April of that year was a low point in his company's history. It's hard to say what's next for Facebook, but it seems like Zuckerberg will be there for whatever happens. The first employees of Facebook were relatively inexperienced and young. In an interview with Morning Brew, Naomi Gleit said, "A lot of us were college students building a product for college kids."
I actually interviewed to be Sean Parker's personal assistant, and sort of the rest is history.
She worked as a marketing associate, her first job post-graduation, and then became a product manager focusing on growth. Gleit then became vice president of social good at Facebook, managing the social network and limiting damage to its moral standing and public reputation as it navigated a series of scandals. Eventually, Gleit rose to the position of head of product at Facebook's overarching company Meta. Thanks to her longevity and loyalty to Facebook and Meta, she's now become one of Zuckerberg's chief strategic advisors. As of 2025, Gleit still works at the company she helped build from the beginning. According to a LinkedIn post by Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes, he made $500 million for 3 years of work, writing, "The only thing we can call it is a lucky break," and he realizes this is not normal. Since leaving the company, Hughes has dedicated his time to finding solutions for the systemic problems wherein a handful of lucky kids can accidentally make billions, while countless working-class students struggle to repay impossibly high student loans. Hughes began his career as a political agent for social change in 2008, when he joined the first presidential campaign of Illinois Senator Barack Obama. Hughes was one of the major figures who pioneered Obama's unprecedented social media campaign by launching and managing the social network my.barackobama.com. Since 2012, Hughes has become one of the leaders of the Economic Security Project, dedicated to supplying resources and funding toward the goal of a universal basic income to adults across the United States.
What was your ownership share diluted down to?
0.03%.
Facebook's Brazilian-born co-founder, Eduardo Saverin, was the dude Zuckerberg pushed out. Of course, that was after Saverin made the initial investment to get Zuck's project off the ground.
Mark came to him and said, you put up $1,000 and we'll launch this site. And, there were no contracts. These were just two kids in a dorm room, really.
The two later got into it over funding, poor communication, and differences of opinion about advertising. Who was right? Does it really matter? Zuckerberg cut Saverin out of the company in 2005. Saverin sued and the pair settled. Thanks to Facebook, Saverin's initial $15,000 investment made him a billionaire. Saverin renounced his U.S. citizenship in 2012, and he really swears it wasn't a tax dodge. He now lives in Singapore, which coincidentally has no capital gains tax, where he recently teamed up with Raj Ganguly to found B Capital Group, a venture capital firm that invests in tech startups focused on healthcare, insurance, financial services, and so on. Back when Zuckerberg was in the dorms, he roomed with a guy named Dustin Moskovitz. Moskovitz hopped aboard the Facebook train right away, dropping out of Harvard to become Facebook's first CTO. He stuck it out for about 4 years before going off in 2008 to do his own thing. Since then, he's co-founded Asana, a workplace application that helps coworkers collaborate, assign tasks, and so on. While he was Asana's CEO, Moskovitz, along with his wife, Carrie Tuna, also dedicated a huge amount of the resources to philanthropy, founding good ventures to fund vaccine programs and animal welfare initiatives, as well as the Open Philanthropy Project. Back in 2004, Zuckerberg made an odd request of a Harvard computer science major named Andrew McCollum.
Mark and I took almost every single one of our classes together our second year at school, and we're lab partners in a lot of those.
The Facebook needed a logo, graphics, and a general design scheme, and for whatever reason, Zuckerberg felt McCollum was the man for the job. Never mind that he wasn't a graphic designer, Zuck insisted. So McCollum concocted the blue logo and design scheme that Facebook still uses today. In the early days, the company's base of operations was a college party house with a zip line that ended in the pool, and McCollum did everything from design work to engineering. He eventually decided to go back to Harvard and build some companies of his own. Some of the projects he's been involved with include JobSpice, a resume building service, and the TV streamer Philo. If you don't know Sean Parker, you know his work. In addition to being one of the co-founders of Napster, the service that changed the music industry forever, Parker is the guy who saw the potential in the Facebook. Once Parker met Zuckerberg, their future partnership was sealed. Parker was appointed Facebook's first president.
He was the adult supervision. He's the guy who showed them how things are done in Silicon Valley.
Parker's time at Facebook ended after he was arrested on suspicion of cocaine possession, although charges were never filed. Still, his time at the company made him a fortune. Since then, Parker has continued throwing himself into cutting-edge technological companies, including a 2010 investment in Spotify. That's right, the co-creator of Napster funded Spotify.
The distribution model for music remains broken. I've dedicated the rest of my career to trying to fix what I broke.
Parker is also the head of the Parker Foundation, a charity that has donated millions to the development of cancer immunotherapy. Despite all the money Parker made from Facebook, he's no longer a fan, telling Axios,
"God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains."
Referred to by Business Insider as Facebook's first real employee, Halicioğlu is the guy who developed the hardware infrastructure that allowed Facebook to survive such colossal growth. He stayed on until 2009, at which point he became a lead reliability engineer for Blizzard Entertainment, the company behind mega-successful games like Diablo and World of Warcraft. A few years later, in 2013, he returned to his alma mater, UC San Diego, as a lecturer in computer science. These days, San Diego Business Journal calls Halicioğlu one of the city's super angels for investing in local early-stage tech startups. He remains devoted to UCSD, and in 2017, he donated $75 million to the university, which named a new building after him. His goal with the donation was to make UCSD one of the country's top schools in the field of data science. Most of the early Facebook crew came aboard due to a direct connection to Mark Zuckerberg, but Ezra Callahan was a roommate of Sean Parker.
I was the second oldest person at the company when I started at 23.
Callahan worked at Facebook from 2004 to 2010 as a manager of internal communications and product manager. After making millions working at the company, Callahan moved to Los Angeles, where he co-founded Artist and Recreation, the real estate and hospitality group that turned LA's historic 100-year-old Regent Theater into a live music venue holding 1,000 people. Next, Callahan went on to co-found Arrive Hotel and Restaurants, a company focused on developing low-key luxury hotels, restaurants, and more. In 2011, he became a principal of Fuzz Rock Projects, a hospitality and real estate development firm. Callahan is currently living in Pasadena and has several children. What do Facebook, LinkedIn, Uber, and Dropbox have in common? A guy named Matt Cohler, among a lot of other things.
I'm actually not quite an entrepreneur. I don't really deserve to be called an entrepreneur.
Cohler's legacy as a founding member and former vice president to both Facebook and LinkedIn would be impressive enough on its own, but his post-Facebook career has been even more lucrative. Cohler joined the Silicon Valley venture firm Benchmark Capital in 2008. You might never have heard of Benchmark Capital, but you've definitely heard of some of the companies Benchmark funded after Cohler joined as a managing partner. They include names like Tinder, Snapchat, Instagram, and Uber. Because of Cohler's vast array of successful enterprises, he's often been called one of the most prescient investors in this industry. In 2018, Cohler decided not to re-up his partnership at Benchmark, though he did choose to retain his board membership at Uber despite the scandals that plagued the company. By the time Gilles Mischler joined Facebook in 2005, he already had many years of network engineering experience to his name, having worked for the likes of Desktop Products, Centerprise, and Truvio. He came to Facebook as its site ops engineer. While the social network began to take form, it did so on the IT infrastructure Mischler devised and constructed. In addition, he served as the day-to-day operations engineer and managed the data center for the rapidly growing company. Just under 5 years later, Mischler left his job engineering networks at Facebook to take a similar position at telecom giant Nokia, building data center networks for the Nokia HERE system. When the job wrapped up, Mischler moved to France and went to work for himself as a networking consultant via Mischler & Compagnie, advising startups and building business-oriented systems. He returned to Silicon Valley to oversee corporate networking for the Dropbox file-sharing service, followed by similar positions at WeWork, Pinterest, and Robinhood, before switching gears to use his now substantial wealth as an angel investor for esports and digital marketing ventures. Among the most well-known features of Facebook, and one that helped drive its early popularity, is the ability to share photos. Early versions of that feature were the creation of one of Facebook's first-ever employees, Scott Marlette. Doing double duty as both an engineer and product manager, Marlette was an architect for the site's back-end while also supervising the teams that designed inside applications like events, groups, and private messages. After he moved away from Facebook, Marlette used technology to address a significant social and economic issue: high prescription drug prices. He helped start up GoodRx, an app and system that applies digital coupons to lower the cost of pharmaceuticals. Marlette's involvement included helping build the site before he moved over to the marketing side. While reportedly helping consumers save billions, his projects have also made Marlette a very rich man. After creating a venture capital fund, he spent $15 million on a home in Santa Monica, California. Before landing at Facebook in 2005, Daniel Neff worked for some of the biggest consumer computing brands around at a time when the internet was a new novel thing to the general public. He worked primarily as a quality control advisor, engineer, and software release manager. Following stints at Macromedia, McAfee, and the pioneering social network Friendster, Neff was hired by Facebook just as it was coming along to supplant that very service and others. As a build and release engineer at Facebook, Neff turned the source code written by colleagues into functional software. He apparently got the job done quickly because he exited Facebook after 6 months. Following brief stints working for LinkedIn, Zazzle, and Renko, Neff joined Adobe in 2009, where he's worked on cloud computing and infrastructure management in a variety of capacities. Neff remains at Adobe as of 2025, holding the title of Senior Principal Cloud Architect. In May 2005, on the recommendation of Sean Parker, Zuckerberg hired Napster's Mac-centric engineer Aaron Sittig to be the company's design strategy lead. It was his job to take new ideas for Facebook products, or features of the platform, and make sure the designers executed them in a timely fashion. Sittig later became a product architect, which found him devising the kinds of ideas he'd once helped realize. After he left Facebook in December 2012, Sittig became a managing partner at an obscure San Francisco area company called Public Studio, seemingly opting for a more private life. According to his most recent Facebook posts, which date back to 2016, Sittig defined himself as an applied generalist building people networks. Facebook hired Nick Heyman in April 2005. At the time, the company was growing so rapidly that it needed an industry veteran as director of operations, considering its ever-expanding website traffic. Heyman stayed for 2 years, then moved on to work for other booming social media sites, including Friendster, Video Egg, and Zazzle, and the now-shuttered network games distributor Playdom. Heyman eventually ended up at Twitter, now X, where he stayed until 2010. He no longer actively works in the tech sector, but helps launch new companies in his capacity as an angel investor. ShopPad and Panda Whale are among the brands moved along with Heyman's funding. Previously a sales executive for Yellow Book and Monster.com, Steve King was one of Facebook's first 20 employees, hired as the director of media sales in April 2005. Some of King's biggest accomplishments were bringing in Facebook's first major high-spending advertisers, the ones that helped legitimize the network, such as Microsoft and Panasonic. Nearly 18 months later, King moved on to a job as a regional sales director for Dotomi, an advertising company that was absorbed by a competitor for $295 million during King's time there. From 2007 to 2012, King was vice president of sales for Locomoda, a social media network for digital advertising. He then became a partner at Second and Fourth, a business advisory and capital investment organization. 6 years as an investor led to King joining Stonefields, another fund that funnels money to new projects and companies. When she joined the Facebook team, Tricia Black already had 10 years' experience in sales, marketing, and client services in the communications field. Black, who was Facebook's 7th employee, came on as vice president in charge of advertising sales. She also hired some of the other early employees, including the sales team, with whom she created and evolved sales and marketing approaches. After just a year and 5 months at Facebook, Black walked away in July 2006 with so much money that, for the better part of 8 years, she operated as an independent investor as well as a consultant and advisor for hire for other tech businesses. In 2016 and 2018, she created 2 investment firms, Victor's Capital and Amplify Her Ventures. Amplify Her's goal is to provide women more entry points into business and technology, and to make the overall executive population of corporations more diverse. When Facebook went live in 2005 and quickly became inundated with internet traffic, the company's engineers managed to maintain their calm. One of these initial hires was Steve Chen, a senior software engineer who just left college to work at PayPal. He didn't stay long at Facebook either, leaving after just a few months near the end of 2005. Chen would wind up associated with 2 internet companies with an even greater cultural footprint than Facebook. Toward the end of his time there, Chen and his friend Chad Hurley were at a dinner party when they realized there was no easy way to share the short videos they captured at the event. Inspired by the photo photo posting site Flickr and supported by $3.5 million in funding, Chen and Hurley created YouTube. YouTube hosted its first video in April 2005, and it was a household name by the fall of 2006, right around the time Google bought the property for $1.65 billion. Chen's personal net worth is in the $500 million range. But after Google took YouTube off his hands, he didn't retire. He started a new tech company called Avos.
These things that I think are actually changing the way the world is going to work, they're all run by kids coming out of school or never even going to school.
One of the final members of the first batch of Facebook employees to tender his resignation, Kevin Colleran was named head of global partnerships in April 2005. Working out of offices on the East Coast, Colleran spent his 6.5 years at Facebook doing things like drafting revenue and advertising plans while also pursuing relationships with large companies around the world. And it worked. Colleran managed to attract Procter & Gamble, one of the most voracious advertising buyers on the planet. During his last 2 years at Facebook, all of his time was devoted to working with P&G. Colleran took a year-long sabbatical after leaving Facebook in 2011. He wrote about his experiences in the world of emergent technology as a regular columnist for the Accelerators feature in the Wall Street Journal. He simultaneously joined 2 venture capital firms, both to invest and to consult on potential buys: General Catalyst Partners out of Boston and San Francisco, and Slow Ventures, also in San Francisco. Many great stories have a mystery man, and when it comes to the Facebook origin story, that's a guy named James Pereira. He was one of Facebook's first employees, working as an engineer from 2004 to 2007. As such, you'd think he'd have a couple of interviews out there, maybe involvement in a tech company or two, or perhaps a charitable foundation, but nope. It seems Pereira has dropped off the face of the earth. An internet search turns up a blog in his name, which is something, but it hasn't been updated since 2011. According to a 2014 story in Mike, Pereira was living in Portland, Oregon at the time. One can only assume the guy prefers to live a quiet post-Facebook life.